All right, good morning, everybody. My name is Andrew Battenhorst. I am the secretary for the Society of Collision Repair Specialists, and my day job is body shop manager at Pacific Collision Center in Glendale, California. I am very proud to be here on stage with my co-panelists. We'll be discussing equipment maintenance today. So why don't we go ahead and you guys take a second to introduce yourselves.
Ian Stoffel with Southern California Collision Equipment, one of the owners.
My name is Justin Lewis. I'm a SCRS board member, and my day job is president of Accurate Auto Body in Redmond, Washington.
I'm Ron Reichen, president and founder of Precision Body and Paint in Oregon, and past chairman of this SCRS.
All right, so we wanted to talk about equipment maintenance because that's one of those things that tends to get backburnered rather quickly in a body shop, and we all have a lot of different things we're working on throughout the day, and it's generally one of the least exciting things that we have to deal with. But I think it's important, especially when we're talking about culture in the shop. So I want to hear from you guys your thoughts on what happens when equipment maintenance is neglected. What does that culturally do to your teams when they're trying to work with stuff that maybe has not been well maintained or it breaks when it's least expected?
I'll take that. You know, at first it's really demoralizing as a technician if you go to that company resistant spot welder, not your personal welder, so to speak, and the previous person that used it just used it, didn't take care of the tips, didn't make sure that it had the coolant or whatever, and you go to use it expecting to be able to, you're on a time frame in your mind as a technician. I've got this window that I'm going to do this operation, and then you've got to stop and do maintenance, and then maybe you don't even have the material for the maintenance, and that really creates a delay. So not only is it not having the equipment, but maybe you don't have, if it's a MIG mag welder, you don't have the replacement tips or the cones or things like that, or heaven forbid, the right wire.
Yeah.
I think that it ends up being a massive frustration for a lot of technicians. Most of the environment we're working in is a very high production, quick moving environment, and anything, especially something that could be preventatively fixed, makes it extremely difficult. So to Ron's point, tools that get broken and someone puts something away and doesn't say anything, or not having the consistent checking in of your equipment. A lot of them have intervals that are supposed to be checked, and not following the intervals gets this time vampire. That's just it's a frustration, and it just builds because now they're slowing down. Now the car isn't getting fixed as quickly. Your customer's now frustrated. And you're trying to chase your tail to figure out how to get them moving again.
Yeah, I see it a lot, just daily going into shops. You see technicians getting frustrated because it doesn't work, or they're fearful of telling a manager that it is broken because they think they're going to get reprimanded. But really, nothing is built bulletproof. These things do break.
Right.
And it requires a culture of communication and understanding that these things need to get repaired and maintained.
Yeah, thank you guys. My next pointed topic is maybe something that's a little bit overlooked is how does that affect cycle time, right? Although in some of our shops, cycle time isn't always the number one indicator we're using as a measurement, it is still very, very important, and especially in the customer's eyes for when their car is going to get back. If we're now running on a delay for something that's broken, have you guys had any real-world examples of when you went down and it's caused significant delays in a job getting completed?
Well, when that happens, then you have to reshift all the priorities. So all of a sudden, if I was going to weld a core support baffle in, and now for some reason the MIG welder's not working or the resistance welder's not working, now I've changed my production schedule, and it has that domino effect throughout the shop, and even in the paint department when they were anticipating getting that in that time frame. So it really can be a problem, so it needs to be looked at.
I was talking to Ron about this a little bit earlier. Something as simple as rivet gun dies. If somebody leaves glue on a rivet gun die, and now you've got a die that will not work for the next rivets, and it happens to be the last die because nobody told you that they were putting the last die in that tool, and you've got a car that's got glue on it, it's got a 45-minute touch time or something along those lines, it can be a disaster because now you're cutting that panel off or moving that panel, ordering a new panel, waiting for dies to show up. It can be a massive, not only costly venture for you, but again, going back to the consumer side of it, extremely frustrating for them because somebody didn't say something to somebody.
Yeah.
You know, Justin, talking about the dies, what I call the hammer and the anvil on that rivet gun, you know, they have a usage life. You know, they might be able to, you know, to compress maybe 500 rivets, and at that point they've been distorted. And we like in our blueprinting process to write that in as a consumable, just like a drill bit. You write in your hammer and anvil as a consumable on the repair plan and charge for it, so you have those extras all the time.
Right.
And then the second thing, in many cases, you know, you got two different sizes. You know, you're not necessarily always using one size rivet on a repair.
Right.
So you have to take into consideration, I need to do two different sizes than just one.
Right.
Yeah, and these rivet dies, parts for welders, we're not Amazon suppliers, so we can't get it to you that day or the next day. We wish we could. Sometimes we can if we're in the area, but we can't instantly get that gratification to you and get that parts to you. So clear communication on having stuff in stock is perfect on your end. Clear planning of it would be crucial.
Yeah, it's very, very important. So, especially for you two, and I want to hear your perspective on this too, Ian. When you guys are deciding about doing maintenance, is that something that you're doing on your own? Someone in the shop that's doing that for you, or are you contracting that out for someone to come on site and maintain some of your equipment? And what goes into making that choice as well, right? Whether to do it in-house or to sublet it.
It depends on a few things. So some of the equipment has service intervals that are called out already. A lot of it too is state requirements or annual requirements like two-post lift inspections and stuff like that. So the easiest way to try to maintain that is just to even build it out on your Outlook calendar and set reminders to, you know, there's other programs available that track maintenance. Some of it comes down to, hey, this just broke and we need to fix it. But there are things that are, you know, annual inspections that you can track and stay on top of that way to help try to prevent stuff breaking down later on.
Yeah, we do something similar because of the number. We have 5 locations, so we have a full maintenance team, and one of those guys is assigned to it, and he's got his Outlook calendar. He's got paint booth changes, you know, filter changes, and we incorporate, you know, compressor services. We have a combination of piston compressors with dryers as well as screw compressors, and they need different, you know, filter changes and things like that. And then you also incorporate, you know, your two-post lifts, all of your lifts, and we do that. We don't do that ourselves. That needs to be by a separate outside entity to keep OSHA happy. We want to have that certification, and that's typically annually. They check the cables, they check the hydraulic lines. Obviously, if something starts to leak, you know, before that service interval, we may just go out and have a line made and take care of it ourselves. If it's obvious, we look for frays in cables, you know, things like that, because obviously we're very cautious about protecting our employees.
Right, right.
You're also seeing OEMs requiring maintenance schedules and documentation. Sadly, there's a lot of good shops that do it, but what we see primarily is reactive repairs versus preventative. We're getting the 911 calls of someone saying that something's broken and you got to get out here today because it's going to mess up my cycle times. You don't see a lot of people doing those maintenance programs. We have software that actually reminds customers when service is coming up. They could sign up on our website to schedule whether it's service or instant repair, so we put that in place.
I would imagine many people would think if they have a failure, if there's a warranty on the equipment that they have, they're probably coming to you asking for that to be covered. And I'm sure that probably gets really difficult when you find that maintenance hasn't been performed. It's probably no different than your car, right? If you skip out on oil changes, you got to. So how do you navigate that with your customers when that's coming up?
Like clear communication. Well, we'll go to battle for them for warranty, but clear communication of what is under warranty and what is not. Misuse, abuse, and neglect is not. Leaving glue on a rivet gun, it's not going to be under warranty. Arcing a electrode or backfeeding a welder, it's not going to be covered under warranty. But just open communication and dialogue. Just no different than what you guys do with your customers on laying out the repair of a car. We do the same thing with the equipment that we provide.
Nice. Okay.
You know, to your point, one of my pet peeves is extension cords with the ground lug broken off, or the maintenance on your your 220 plugs. You know, maybe it doesn't get set in the box completely. You get a little bit of arcing. You know, you get some carbonization going on those plugs. They're yanking the welder, and it pulls hard against the conduit. You know, all of those things. And everybody's always in a hurry, and they never want to do the maintenance. So, you know, I'll do that a lot on the weekends. I'll just walk through the shop, and I'll just look at that kind of stuff, make a list, snap pictures of it, and then send it to the maintenance guys. And I still like to pick up the tools myself, so sometimes I'll even be doing that stuff. But it's those things that just are out of sight, out of mind. But if OSHA showed up and one of those ground lugs is missing, that's a $2,500 fine right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Very important to be on top of that. How would you go about finding out what are the service requirements for the equipment and tools that you guys have in the shop? Are you guys relying on the supplier you bought the tool from, or how are you accessing that information?
Yeah, I think for us, usually it's relying on the supplier. Obviously, in the owner's manual, if there's a maintenance interval in there, but all in all, we're really relying on the feedback from them, especially at time of purchase, so we can build out that maintenance structure on our calendar or whatever that is. Because I think it's the thing that's always missed is I hear a lot. I mean, I also run our state association, and I hear a lot about time. I don't have time. I'm too busy. But it takes a lot more time to try to address this stuff when it's an issue than it does to try to get ahead of it and address it before it's an issue. So make the time, right? Understand when you purchase the equipment, set that up in the beginning so you know when that's supposed to be done, so you're not chasing your tail later on trying to get it fixed and you don't have the right contact, you don't know who to reach out to. Set up a schedule for it when you first purchase that equipment.
Couldn't say it better.
Justin and I were talking about this earlier. One of our screw compressors, you know, very, very good name brand, and we do have that one serviced by the manufacturer because it's still under warranty. In between our service period, we just had an oil line vibrate loose. Just one of the acorn nuts vibrated loose. The line came off, pressure dropped, the machine shut down, spewed oil all over the place, made a heck of a mess, and shut the shop down for about 4 hours. So not only do you do what I consider the standard maintenance, but you have to go beyond that. So, you know, we learned a lesson there. Just go in and look for, check the tightness on all of those kinds of things.
Yeah.
So it did shut us down. Fortunately, we had set up where we can bring an auxiliary compressor in, a gas-powered one, and get that shop back up. But, you know, it was inconvenient and made a mess, and it shut us down for about 4 hours.
Right.
So,
right.
And it was outside of the maintenance schedule, and it's just something that vibrated loose. So just go above and beyond.
Right.
Look for something.
Right. It's hard to prepare for all circumstances, right? As much as we want to have fail-safes and measures in place to protect us, it's not easy. Do you guys have like a set of spares that you guys keep for maybe the common items that wear out or you know you're going to need in the event that you have a failure?
We do that with the welders.
Okay.
You know, we have basically like a plastic tackle box for the MIG-MAG welders, you know, and so we'll have extra tips, you know, and extra cones, you know, and maybe even keep an extra sleeve and cable. On the resistant spot welders, you know, you're going to have those extra tips. Some of the tips are replaceable.
Right.
Some of them, and the older ones, it's the full length. You know, and you need the pencil sharpener, so we'll do the maintenance on those with a DA or a belt sander and keep those up to speed. Definitely have to keep your coolant available, and that's a pet peeve of mine. Those guys typically will run it out of coolant. They won't check it before they start the process, so yes, you try to be as preemptive as you can, and second guess what materials you're going to need, and for the most part we're successful, but you'll get a curveball.
Yeah, of course.
I think it's the same for us. So welder maintenance is probably the number one thing that we have spares for. Welding tips, all that stuff set aside. Same thing, tackle box style. We have airline repair kits for your compressor lines. But like he said, nothing is going to happen the way you expect it to. Something always comes at you with a curveball, but having as much ready as you can really does help. That way the things that are the most common are also the most easily addressed.
Right. And how does that guide you, Ian, as a supplier? Because like obviously you're doing repairs and maintenance as well, so you already kind of have a leg up to know preemptively what the shop might need, right?
And we give that out. This is the stuff that you keep on hand. a list of recommended items. Rivet gun dies, I think, are the most ones that most people don't do that they should, and consumables for a MIG welder. Unfortunately, with spot welders, there's cooling lines, there's all kinds of stuff that they could have a whole back room filled of parts that they might need. So we just tried to keep heavy stock of that for the emergency things that we could ship out or have someone run it out for them.
Got it. So what would you guys say is the most common equipment failures you guys are seeing, whether in the field for servicing or in the shop? What tends to go down the most, if there is anything?
I think for us it's the welders.
Welders.
I think it's the welders. It is. It's just the welders, and then we have a keep full basis on our gases, so we really don't ever run out of gas. But and I think one of the situations is if the blueprinter's building that repair plan and it requires Honda Acura wire,
Right.
to make sure we have that. One of the things that we do, this is just a trick that we came up with years ago, when we pull that spool of wire out, when we're not using it, we got a vacuum packer, like you'd vacuum pack meat with, and so we'll put that whole spool of wire in that and vacuum pack it to keep that moisture out. And that's really been beneficial for us. So they just write on the package, this is what the wire is, and then store it in the parts department for inventory. So having the correct wire when you need it can delay a repair.
Right.
Yeah, again, I got to second that. Welding seems to be the most common issue that we run into. But we've had other things like recently we've had some paint booth issues that have come up that, one of our panels was going bad. And we kept continually having issues where we were blowing breakers. And we had people coming in and trying to run tests to figure this out. And not something that was a preventative maintenance per se, but it took a while to get it squared away. And it was costing a lot of time trying to be in front of it. So the paint booth one was that was a particular one we've dealt with lately it's fixed, but just kind of a time vampire.
Right.
But yeah, welding, having the extra tips, having the like you said, the wire, making sure you've got enough welding gas. That's another big one. There's just a lot of things that you can have set up in stock, ready to go to help save those things when they do arise later on.
When you talked about paint booths, that kind of just jostled my memory for a minute. But additional belts for your exhaust and intake fans. When those things will start to give you some warning. Sometimes they will. Sometimes they'll start to squeal a little bit at startup, and that belt's either loose or it needs some maintenance. And the other is actually just that overspray buildup in the plenums. That can affect that. And once a year we actually shut a booth down and go in and have access panels where we get in and scrape that and make sure that we've gotten that out of there. Even though there's, in most cases, you've got sprinklers inside those plenums, but it can become a fire hazard too.
Yeah.
But it can affect the flow.
Right.
Like one of the other things that we started carrying for our booths as well is door seals and door hinges. Because we're to a point now where the booth's getting a little bit older, and some of the door hinges, the bushings are starting to fail, which is causing doors to drag and not get a good seal. So we've been noticing that. So now we keep a stock of a couple extra door hinges and new door seals. So when that happens, we can keep an efficient booth cycle.
Right.
I'm going to bring it back to welding. That's probably the thing that we get the call on the most. So much so that we have over 20 loaner spot welders that we will loan out. So it doesn't affect your cycle time. We'll bring out a welder in an emergency, pick up your welder, we try to give it a quick response. But yeah, I'd say welding hands down is the thing that we repair the most.
That's a big help to be able to have you guys drop off a functioning, working welder so you don't get that downtime, and then you take our bad one, fix it, bring it back, and do the swap again. That's phenomenal.
Andrew, I think too, training, your maintenance training, especially if you have a new hire or you've got a mentoring program, part of that equipment maintenance, we big into our training program.
Right.
What are the things you check before you start using that welder?
Right.
And just do that safety check every time.
Yeah, it should be done at implementation too when you bought the equipment.
Right.
It's going not over just the functions of whatever you're purchasing, but how do you maintain it and keeping it a long life and getting your ROI.
One thing that we always notice too, no matter how clean your shop is, you need to blow the dust out of those. Open up the access panel where the wire is actually at, and get that thing, either vacuum it out or make sure and blow it out, because some of those really get a lot of dirt in them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's important because I think it's just like the air filter in your car, right? If you overlook basic filter changes for whatever piece of equipment that has some air intake on it, that it can be a real big problem. That if you start to skip that, and the efficiency of that tool is now rapidly decreasing as it can't draw in air as it's designed to. Yeah, that's big. So I want to talk a little bit more about welding gas, and I want to see if you guys can run through, and maybe for the audience and those that are going to watch this, to understand what is the impact of running out of welding gas in the shop when you're in the middle of the job, and maybe walk through the production costs that's lost and the amount of time that it takes to get back up and running again for something as simple as just running out of gas.
Well, typically, depending on the cars you're working on, you're running two different kinds of gas, right? You've got argon and you've got the 75-25. If you run out of gas mid-weld, mid-project, depending on how close your nearest gas distributor is, pulling that off the machine, loading it up into a vehicle, driving it out there to get an emergency fill done on it, and bring it back could be hours. Now you've got a car sitting in a stall that can't be worked on with a technician that's probably not real happy. Because maybe the technician before used the last bottle that was in reserve and didn't say anything to anybody, and now you've got no gas left at the shop. So it can be a massive hurdle to jump over trying to get the process through. And it's not always something you can just turn around and go drive right down and get. So it can be difficult.
I don't remember which vehicle it was. It was an aluminum vehicle, and it called out I think a helium, and it was a different mix, and it was challenging for us to get our gas company to even mix that for us. So we discovered it when we were reading the repair procedures, so we got out ahead of it. But I think it took us about 10 days to actually get that gas that we needed. So again, that's a pitch for repair procedures and reading those and getting that stuff ahead of time so you don't get it in the stall and then all of a sudden you're not using the right gas and you're contaminating that weld or for whatever reason. So
yeah, it's a big problem.
They're calling out different mixes of gases that aren't just your standard 25-75 or helium or what are those other gases.
Right.
Something to look out for.
Yeah. So how do you guys recommend someone, we briefly talked about it earlier about like using your Google Calendar, your Outlook calendar. Is there any software out there that you guys know of that can help shops start to manage and track their equipment and their maintenance that's required?
I know that I know Collision Vision is one of them that helps track that. I know that there's some others. I don't know particularly which there are, but I know that Collision Vision is one that tracks a lot, not just the maintenance of it, but process from start to finish, also of repairs. But I do know that there's others. I don't know exactly the name of them.
I was testing you guys because I wanted to see what you know. So there's a couple others too. So BitRip, which is partnered with SureTape, they have it's called a BR code, and that's a tool that you can. It's like a QR code, but rather than taking a link to another website or a video, this actually is like a storage file where you can put the owner's manual, you can put your maintenance logs, you can put all kinds of data on there, and you take that sticker and you put it right on the tool so anybody could scan that and it pulls up on your phone or a tablet, and you can do it that way. There's also like project management software, which is not well known for this kind of thing, but you can use those. There's Trello, Monday, Jira. There's multiple different versions of that you guys can use depending on what your need is and how much in the weeds you like to go with all that. So yeah, I think as long as you have something right to track it, or you're relying on someone like you, Ian, to come into the shop and do that. I mean, if I remember right, you guys have maintenance plans you guys offer, right?
We have maintenance plans. We also found a field service software, so it actually tracks. We're importing all old data into it right now, but it'll track everything that we've done on your equipment by serial number. Give recommended. We can put the intervals in, when the warranty is up, all that, so it's reminders for you. Also has a portal that you could log into and check statuses of your repairs, as well as seeing when your next maintenance is up and what's due.
Nice.
Make it easy for you.
Yeah. The last topic I want to talk about is improper tool use, which you guys have kind of touched on a little bit. stupid is as stupid does, right? So it's a big problem, and I've dealt with it in my own shop. Nick was nice enough when we had a problem with a B-tag tool where my guys were actually using it improperly and labeled the tool as not being good because they didn't know how to use it, and that tool ended up getting sat in the corner, and it was actually making us decide to replace parts that we could have been repairing. How often do you see that come up?
Quite a bit. I mean, you have cycles of technicians that come in that might not get educated on it, or they were used to a different piece of equipment, and they automatically think, I like that, I'm not going to use this new piece of equipment that you guys have invested in. We see it quite a bit, but it's just clear communication, training schedules with us, requesting new implementation at your shop, and getting your technicians educated. Because it could be very simple. Just a wrong angle of a rivet gun, you could snap that die inside a piston. So it's just really education.
Right, right.
Yeah, I think the fear comes with lack of training. You know, they're not accustomed to it, so that they just really know that training, and that is a big peeve of mine too. Is that angle of that rivet gun? You know, you can damage that hammer, that anvil really quickly if you're not, you know. And so it's a professional, highly precision piece of equipment,
Right.
and so it really needs to have a good training. I can't emphasize dry fitting enough when you're doing, especially an aluminum and an adhesive panel. The deburring, pet peeve of mine. I came out of the aircraft industry, so deburring is really a pet peeve of mine. And then mapping out those rivets and taping them on because you got multiple sizes. So if you do have to change, a hammer and an anvil, that that this rivet stops and now I'm going to the next different style. So.
Yeah, I think Ron nailed it. It's 100% comes down to the training side of it. We've been fortunate to not have a lot of turnover over the last few years, but I can remember back before that where you'd get people that would come in that knew what they were doing, that had never used the tool, that assumed it worked like a tool they used to use, and maybe something was different, right? So, and then to Ron's point too, with the dies again, it's obviously a hot topic for us too, going through and having a technician go through, like, we'll map out on the vehicle when the die change comes. So you'll mark off the rivets that are the same rivet, then you know which die to change to after that, get those ones done.
Right.
So you're not using the wrong die, because you've got flat dies and pip dies, and they're all different finishes, all different rivets. So I think tech buy-in, I think, is a lot of it too, them understanding that tool, the capabilities of it.
Right.
And having the manufacturer, whoever coming in and showing them the proper usage of it to help sell to them how good that tool is and the whole point of using it the way it's supposed to be used. Not trying to shortcut and go, I think I've got a better way to do it. So yeah, I think educating would be probably number one when it comes to that.
Agreed.
I tell all my trainers that I think there's a sales guy that sells the equipment, sells it to the owner, but the real sell is selling to the technician on how this is going to benefit them day to day and how to use it properly and safely too.
Yeah. Well, as we reach the conclusion of our panel here, do you guys have any final summarizing thoughts about what we've covered today?
My only comment would be that most of what we're talking about on equipment maintenance also does break down to the safety of your employee.
Absolutely.
We had an employee that took the top of his finger off with a rivet gun, and so there's a part of that training too. So you want to keep your employees safe, and part of that safety is keeping up on your equipment maintenance.
Well said, Ron.
Excuse me. One thing, as we're sitting here talking about this, that we didn't really cover much is also the liability side. If you've got a repair that happens to fail, the first thing they're going to come after to look for is your maintenance records of your equipment. So not only protect yourselves, protect your consumers, they're going to be coming for it, so make sure you have it.
Yeah, it's huge.
I'd like to add, just we talked about it a few times, is just education, retraining even on technicians, because sometimes they get into habits of doing it, shortcuts happen. So just educate and make sure that they're using that rivet gun correctly, using the spot welder correctly, and maintaining the product correctly.
Excellent discussion, gentlemen. I always enjoy these talks each year here at SEMA. We'll all be floating around the SCRS booth for the rest of the week. And thank you all in the audience for listening to us as well. You guys have a great rest of your show.
Thank you.
Thank you.